Okay, so here we're going to go with review part number 3. In this part, we're going to talk about features. So I'm basically going to kind of go over what you get with this tractor and point out a few things that I feel like are in need of being highlighted. Um, so let's just, while we're on the outside, before we jump in the cab, let's go around. Uh, so this is a deluxe model. Pretty much all the cab models I've seen are deluxe. This is I guess would be called a standard roof. There is a Vizio roof option on these cabs now. And what I mean by that is, and I'll point out here inside, is you see this seam here in the headliner going forward here. That whole area, I won't say whole area, but a good part of it will be replaced by a kind of sort of glass sunroof. And they call it the Vizio roof because what it does is it helps you to, if you're raising the loader, so following my camera here, you can look up in this area through the glass. I opted not for that roof. Obviously this tractor, it wasn't a requirement of mine to have that roof. If it had came available, would I took it? I don't know. In the past, I've heard people mention it can get warm with that roof. The sun. I'm sure they've made improvements to that now. One thing I'd be worried about if it were to ever leak. I don't know if they leak or not, but sometimes I do have to leave tractor outside in the rain. Sometimes I do work in the rain. I'll bush hogging stuff in light rain. But anyway, so yeah, this is standard cab, but it is a deluxe model. So it does have air ride seat in it, the power shuttle, declutch button on the gear shift, buddy seat or instructional seat, whatever you want to call it, and whatnot. So that's one of the features of this tractor. Another feature is, I mentioned earlier, is this front locking differential. So it's a hydro lock differential, which is activated by a switch right here. So here you have your four-wheel drive auto and four-wheel drive full-time switch, and right next to it you have differential lock switch. So the front locker, and the reason I alluded to that in another video already, one of the review parts, is I hadn't given much thought to that ever, and that's something I haven't really ever seen on a tractor before. I've seen rear differential lockers for years, but have not seen the addition of a front locker. So you get a rear and front locker on this tractor. And I got to thinking about that and thought of some situations that I have been in myself where a front locker may or may not have been the difference between me being stuck or not. And the reason I say that, especially with a tractor, you have a front loader on it. Sometimes if you're digging out a ditch or something like that, you have the front end of your tractor angled forward. So you're shifting weight towards the front of the tractor, and that way you're not getting as much traction on the back end because the weight shifted forward. And there we go, what I said earlier about having a tractor to have the weight you need to get traction to do what you need to do. Well, in that situation where you're angled forward and you start losing rear traction, and say you start losing traction on one of your front tires in four-wheel drive, because sometimes you get in, when you're in that situation, you may have the front axle articulated such that one wheel's real high and one's down low, one of them starts to spin. Well, the advantage of the front locker then is that tire that has the pressure on the ground and is getting traction, you can then use, force that wheel to use that power to get you out of that sticky situation, whatever it may be. That is a feature I haven't seen on other tractors yet. So that is one thing I wanted to point out for those that are looking, that you do get that. And I believe that's a deluxe model option, is the Hydrolock front axle, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, that's just a feature that I feel is very much worth noting. So this does have the power shuttle. It's very easy to operate, and also your sensitivity of that, which is basically how fast or slow it's going to engage and disengage the clutch and work the shuttle, is right here. And you don't got to go digging through menus or anything else like that to find it. The steering wheel is tilt and telescoping by this handle right here. So you can get the steering wheel right where you want it to be comfortably for field work. There's a screen here that displays a lot of different information. Of course, obviously, engine hours, ground speed. I think there might be an acreage counter and some different things in there. That's control base switches down here. You have a home button and your screen buttons. Your main light switch, hazard lights, your electronic PTO engagement, so that should be a 3-position switch. Should be neutral, on, then back to neutral, and then brake. Has electro over hydraulic 3-point hitch controls, very similar to a John Deere control. A lot of you recognize that style. Your hydraulics valves here, throttle here, automatic throttle setting, so you can program the tractor to once you press that button to jump to a preset RPM level. So like I said earlier, I use 1800 RPM a lot for my PTO work, whether I'm mowing, baling, or whatever. I can set that to 1800 RPM, press it without me having to move the lever, it will automatically go to 1800 RPM. Joystick for the loader. There's some switches and stuff in the back. I mean, this is all still covered in plastic. For third function, and I think maybe a loader suspension control. There is a loader suspension option for this loader that I can add. I have looked into that. Here's your transmission. So you get a 12-speed transmission. You have a high-low range. That's it. Just 2 ranges. You have 6 gears. And you have a declutch button here where you can actually press that button, shift your gear, and let off, and it'll clutch everything automatically. You never have to use the foot clutch. Now, one thing I like about this transmission is it just having the 2 ranges. Some of the Deeres have 3 ranges, and I've had a 5095M before. Sometimes you find yourself shifting this range more often to find the gear you want on a John Deere, per se, that I've used with the 3 ranges, and you do the 2. What I've used this tractor so far is I've been able to find the gear I need, whether I'm moving hay or whatever I've been doing so far, in whatever ranges I'm in. So I'm not having to constantly go back and forth between ranges to find the gear I want. Obviously, if you're going down the road, you'll want to be in high range, but it's geared such that if you're coming off the road, that you can still find a gear, in 1 or 2 here of the 6 gears that will slow you down, and you can turn into a field or a driveway or whatever without having to come to a stop and change the range. And I really like how that works out. So I like the fact that I'll be able to pick the range I need without searching for it for whatever it is I'm doing. I can, like I said, stay in that range. Because I remember with one of the John Deeres, like I said, when you come off the road, you would have like you'd only have like 3 gears, and the lowest of the gears in the highest range was still too high to like turn into a field to go down the road, so you had to switch ranges. This one gives you the ability to get on down to a slower gear, get on off the road safely without, somebody, if you got to make a stop, because a lot of these things, this one is synchronized from low to high, but it's not synchronized high to low. Some of the Deeres weren't synchronized at all, and you would have to come to a stop. Either you'd have to get off the road real quick, turn it in somewhere, and then stop, or you'd have to about do it on the road. And if there's traffic, we all know that can be a dangerous situation, because people these days don't know how to drive around farm equipment. But I'm not going to go into that topic right now. Anyway, I just wanted to point out the transmission here and how I felt about that. I feel like it is set up and thought through nicely with just only having to have the 2 ranges. So having more gears available in a range is actually a plus in my opinion. So while we're in the cab, this one does have the upgraded vents. That was a modification. It has the bigger cup holder, which was added. That was both of these were customer complaint things that have been changed. Do have a radio added in this. That's your air conditioner controls. More light switches over here, drive control, and then of course your main ignition key. All the windows do open up except for the front window. Does have the rear wiper on it. Front wipers down low and not in your line of sight up here. You do have a sunscreen right here. And it's not a mesh sunscreen, so that blocks all the sun. Got an inside mirror. The outside mirrors are well placed, and they're big. They're a lot bigger than the ones on my 6110M John Deere. And you can adjust those in several ways. You can run them out in length. You can go up and down with the mirror. You can change the angle of the arm. So that works out good. Again, the exhaust is not really in your line of sight. It's kind of corner post exhaust. Parking brakes right here, easy to get to. There's a little storage net here, storage bin here. Your hookups for monitors and stuff are here for power. I think that's about it here inside the cab. So if you get a loader on one of these, I've noticed, I think just about all of them have the extra lights. I don't know if they call those loader lights or what, but I have them already turned out to illuminate my visibility out to the side of the tractor, because I do a lot of night work. I found the headlights to be very sufficient. I won't say they were as good as my 5610 was, but they're more than sufficient to provide enough light for the work that I'll be doing at night. Another feature you get on this tractor, you get both stabilizer bars for the 3-point hitch. Again, is electro over hydraulic control, so you have the lift cylinders. And you can control that right here when you're hooking up to a 3-point implement on the sides with these buttons. And they give them not only on one side, but both sides. That's another thing where you need to compare. You know, if you're looking at like a 5E John Deere, that 5090 or 5100E, you're not going to get those buttons because that is not an electro-hydraulic controlled system. Anyway, your air conditioner system filter is right up here. So that is easy to get to. I mean, you'd have to get a step ladder to get up there, but it's not buried anywhere, or you have to take half the cab inside apart to get to it. That's well placed. You get a high beam light and what do they call those things? Projection lamps on this tractor. That's pretty much the same setup that's on my 6110M John Deere. It has I believe what you call the projection lights and then the high beam lights. A lot of the tractors in this segment do not come with those projection lights. They just have a high standard old high-low beam light. So that really helps illuminate at night. Another feature of this loader that I like is the fact that this cross member right here is placed down low here on the loader. It's not up in this area right here. And the reason I point that out is when they're up here, that tube blocks your headlights. So you either have to go with your loader up high or way down low to the ground at night for them headlights to do any good. And I've already noticed what little I've had this out at night is I can run this loader in a nice position here and still have good visibility with the headlights. Let's see, get a toolbox. Got a weight bracket on front, hood guard. Another thing I want to point out on this tractor, it's metal hood. Now you may be thinking, well, big deal, metal hood. Well, bear with me and walk over here for a second and I'll show you something. This is my 6415 John Deere. There's the hood. It's some kind of composite plastic. I don't know what it is, material. And the top's cracking on it. This is a 2003 model tractor. It has about 2,500 hours on it. This tractor spent most of its life here in this shed. I did buy it used, but that hood, I'm learning, is very expensive to replace. We're talking thousands, not hundreds, to get this hood. And this tractor the hood shouldn't have done that. I find the metal hood on the Massey to be a benefit for a couple of reasons. Yeah, it can rust, it can scratch, it can dent, but all those things can be fixed inexpensively. This hood cannot be fixed inexpensively, and I don't know what this thing was made out of and why it did that. You'd think, well, it's sun related or something like that, but it's not. Every time I run this tractor, the hood gets like pliable. The heat from the engine makes this material soft, and that flexing of that soft material and that pliableness of it from it going hot to cold, cold to hot is causing these cracks. So the reason I wanted to point that out was I feel like this is an advantage of these tractors. A lot of the tractors in this segment have got a plastic or some kind of composite style hood, where this is still a painted metal hood. So like I said, yeah, there's advantages, disadvantages, but I feel like if something were to happen to that hood, it would be a lot less expensive to replace than what it's going to cost to replace on that John Deere. So that's another thing to take into account when looking at these tractors. But anyway, I think I've covered most of the little features, and like I said, I wanted to point out things like you get with this tractor, like the extra lights, like the mirrors. All that stuff is standard on this model, this being the deluxe model, and the price point still comes in less than some of the competition. And I just, want to make people aware of that when they're looking, because if you start pricing out those little individual things, say like on a John Deere, they add up really quick. And on this tractor, you're going to get them included. So it's just another thing to weigh. So let me see my list here. I think I got most everything I wanted on that. So I will conclude this video and move on to the next. Thanks for watching.